Hi, this is Michael Venus. I'm at Centre Never Apart preparing for our winter exhibitions vernissage. I'm going to speak with the 6 artists who made the show possible.
The title of my show is Traces of Life, a travel from Canada to India. It's an exhibition about how India is perceived through the eyes of Indian people. Well, actually, it's about India, but I would say more about South Asia. I wanted in this show to just bring this idea that when you go to a foreign place, the first thing that happens is actually that you see differences. When you see differences, what happens is that you actually kind of look at yourself through the difference. There is 5 artists in the show. One is Shovan Gandhi. He's presenting 3 photos called Before and After. There is Stéphane Desmeules, who's a Québécois artist. There is Kiran Mbweni, an artist and photographer, and she's covered a lot of different places in the world. And finally, Mobin Ansari was a Pakistani artist. And he's presenting a short movie, no speaking, only music, very beautiful piece.
The name of my exhibition is When Put into a Specific Category, the subject might or will lose its colors and specificity. Basically, my show is about the act of labeling individuals and how it affects a human being, and how by creating label, we kind of like disrupt the way we look at people, and it really kind of put them into a subject role and then put them under observation, and how that affects our relationship with those people. I hope that people, by seeing it, walking in the space, will kind of, it really plays on like who's being observed also, like where, like who we're looking at. Are they looking at me, or am I looking at them? So that's very much about that play on like observing and putting under like the microscope. So that's, yeah, I hope it just like kind of question people on like the way they look at people and the way they interact with them. That's basically it.
It's called Lovesick, and it's about our need to communicate. What they're seeing is something that's very familiar to all of us, is emoticons. I picked 2 specific ones. So there's the one with the hearts in the eyes, that represents the love, and then the one with the crosses is the sick, and the two together is lovesick. But, there's obviously sort of multiple meanings to the words lovesick. I think they're striking, and, I did them with LED lights, and I think they just kind of look cool, and they're very pop art. On a different level, I hope that they sort of think about this concept that we're actually, how powerful emoticons are, because, like a lot of times people would sort of like make fun of them and say, oh, they're just for like, little kids or for teenagers. But, I actually thought about it, and they're actually very useful, and they're very kind of sophisticated in a way.
The name of my exhibition is Love. It looks at the mourning process, basically. It's kind of drawing from personal experience and trying to tackle themes of mourning and resilience, and trying to find ways to kind of counter the legacy of intergenerational trauma. The installation, there's a bit of everything. There's a bit of photo, video, and the most important part for me is this kind of big mound of soil that's standing in the middle. I think trauma is kind of a break from the natural cycle, so nature is really this space of constant renewal and growth. So that's very present. So for me, this mound of soil was kind of this big, very grounding material that's there, and there's going to be plants growing throughout the exhibition. So I hope it's kind of a place where you can sort of meditate and, feel good.
My work, this particular project is called Infinite Essence, and it's about the annihilation and reclamation of the black body. The work features photographs of different individuals, all black, with ultraviolet paint, and creating patterns of stars, of the cosmos. And for me, it's meant to evoke an idea of an eternal body that transcends pain and suffering that we see kind of in our day-to-day lives. So what people should expect when they come in and see the photography, is a story as they walk into the space. No matter where you come in, there's a story around Black liberation and Black emancipation that is evoked throughout the work. Yeah, so what I hope people take from this exhibit is a dream of another world that's a better place. When I started this work, I was kind of just surrounded by imagery of like dead and dying Black people. And so I wanted to imagine almost like a parallel dimension where Black people were free. And so I think that's what I want people to come away with, is that, you know, there's so much more possibility than the world in which we have right now, you know, which is pretty depressing. So yeah, I want people to dream a bit more.
The name of my show is Sino-Québécoise, or Sinon Québécoise. The N sometimes there and sometimes not. Sino is the prefix for Chinese, and I'm Cantonese, third generation. And so my exhibition is about this hyphenation or separation of these identities and who gives us that space and how do we find it for ourselves. The artwork you'll find in the show is mostly oil painting and some fibers and one piece of fake ceramics. I use the material to reference its history, and so a lot of the oil painting is about the history of oil painting. I hope for other Cantonese and other Asian people, they find something that they can not just relate to, but perhaps discuss in their, maybe by themselves with other people, because I think it's not something that's very much talked about, and maybe sometimes things that you only talk about much later in your life, and by then you've already had so many different opinions about where you belong and what you want. And it's important to acknowledge how these things change in our lives, and it's not fluid, and maybe I'll rethink this all in 1 year.